second chance in the game.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about a really, I guess, important and staple offensive series that we've run here really for almost 30 years. But before I get into that, I'll talk a little bit about our program. So I have been the head football coach here at Batavia High School since 2011. I have had the great luxury of following Hall of Fame football coach Mike Gaspari here at Batavia, who had been the football coach since the 1980s. And Mike brought me onto his coaching staff in the late 80s in 1989, and I was lucky enough to serve as the defensive coordinator here since 1991. In 2010, my last year's D coordinator, I was given the opportunity to interview and become the head football coach at Batavia, and have been the head football coach here since 2011. So much of the success that we've had here at Batavia was built on the principles and the philosophies and the really great effort that our head coach Mike Gaspari put in place. But I felt very good about being a big part of that. I often consider myself to be Mike's right-hand man during those 20 years or so, along with Coach Matt Holm and Coach P.J. White and Bill Kettering, and a staple of our coaching staff who'd been here during that time. So I am also a teacher at Batavia High School. I am a math and business teacher. I recently have taken over a program called Incubator, which is an entrepreneurship program here at Batavia, and really enjoy teaching that. I am a 1983 Batavia High School graduate, have went to a local school, North Central College in Naperville, football and track there, played for Lloyd Krumloff, and then Coach Paul Connor, who now is a coach over at Wheaton North, and we ran the wing T at North Central, ran pro style before that. And here at Batavia, the entire time that I've been a coach, we've been a multiple pro style offense. Just for credibility's sake, because I know it's important for coaches to know if we're having success, since I did take over the program in 2011, have had a great deal of success, winning football games. We've been 85-12 in that time. Been to the playoffs every single year, have 2 state titles, 2013, 2017. In addition to that, have been to the semifinals this past season as well. 6 conference titles in that time, and the Upstate 8, now the new Duquesne Conference this past year, and a 19-6 record in the playoffs. So our Batavia offense that we run here, a little bit different than most. I think a lot of people feel that we're a difficult team to prepare for. You can talk to coaches at our conference about that, but we think that we are. We're multiple formation. In fact, variations and combinations of formations and backfield sets often put us in the hundreds. We are both gun and under center. So that makes us a little bit unique. I think most teams are one or the other. The way that we set up our offense is a little bit old school. We're an old school numbering system, depending on the way that you call plays, but we're evens to the right, we're odds to the left. Also, whole numbering is old school in that regard. And then we use in our play calling system, a numeric system to call our passing game. And with our passing game, we have 50 series, 60 series, 70, 80, and 90 series. They each mean something to our kids. So, for example, we might call a 51, pro right 51 pass, or a slot left 63, or a double slot 80, 84, or something along those lines. But we use that in our play calling system. So 50 series are a quick game, 60 is our 3-step, 70 is our 5, 80 series is our delay, 90 series is our sprint out, and then we have a play action set, and then a quick screen game that we run as well to complement it all that we're very proud of, along with a few trick plays here and there. So simple. I think a lot of people have seen these sequences or systems. We've been running this here really forever, and we run it in our youth programs as well. So what I'm going to talk about specifically today is a part of our offensive passing package, our 80 series we call it, which is our delay game. And it's something that I think every single year gets us out of jams. Something that the people that we play spend, I think, a lot of time trying to prepare for, because they know it can be a field flipper. It can be a great chunk play. It can be a great compliment. It can, be great for us on 3rd and long. Can be great for us on 2nd and 1. It isn't really a play action. It isn't really a screen, but it sets up to be that way a little bit. It's something that we really look to run against the team when they have active inside linebackers that are really good at covering pass and jump into their curls or jump tight ends or get out into space quickly and move real well, or people that blitz their inside linebackers a lot. It serves us either way. We look for on film when teams are vacating the middle of the football field against certain formations or in a certain play set. And we really feel that it's best against a 3-4 or against a 52 defense. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that here. So talk a little bit about the way that it sets up. So from a blocking standpoint, the way that we block our 80 series is we use what's called, or we call slide protection. So our guards and our tackles are going to slide to the man on the outside. So if you think about it against let's just say a 3-4 defense, your tackles are going to block the outside linebackers. Your guards are going to block the defensive ends. Your center's on the nose, of course. And then your running backs are going to be responsible for the inside linebackers. All right. And if I'd like to go to the whiteboard for 1 second. Let's take a pause and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So as I mentioned, if we're going to be looking at a front that's typically going to be an odd front, all right, what we are looking at from a perspective of how we are going to block you and how we're going to take care of blocking you is our running backs are going to be responsible for these inside backers. Now, it's important that I show you that first because when I get into showing you the play design, you'll see how that works for us, whether you blitz or whether you don't. All right? Now we got 5 guys that are left to block. So we are going to slide protect. We're on the center. If he's tough and you aren't bringing your outside backers very much, we can help a little bit with the guards, of course, on that nose. All right? But we are responsible to slide protect here and here, and we are going to slide protect here and here to the outside. The tight end will block usually in this, and he's really our primary receiver in our staple 80 series play. But with our slide protection on this, we're going to be able to give our quarterback plenty of time to throw. Now, when we talk a little bit about the quarterback mechanics of this and what we're going to do with him, you'll see even if you do bring some extra pressure or you can beat us one-on-one, we typically have enough time to throw this play, not dissimilar to a screen pass. So that's kind of the way that that's going to work for us, okay? All right, now let's talk a little bit about then what's going to happen when we actually run this football play. So key points for what we feel about with our the blitzing linebackers. If the inside linebackers do blitz us, our running backs will pick them up. We're happy about that. If your inside linebackers bail and our running backs are stepping up and attacking them, we're still okay because we want to influence them. And if your inside linebackers are man-to-man and they sit and you have a backer that sits and he's on the tight end, that's where we're going to run into a little bit of trouble. So really, anytime the inside linebackers blitz or are very reactive to running backs crossing their faces or attacking them and flying out the flats, we're going to be in very, very good shape. So those are a couple key points of things that we're looking for. The receivers that are running our routes that aren't going to be our main receivers on these, and they still can end up being defaults or checkdowns, really have to sell their routes like you would on any pass route. They have to be all out, and they might vary a little bit depending on the defense, and I'll get that when I show you the base play. So the word we often use is sell. You're going to need to sell your route to the best of your ability and make sure that when you are clearing a zone or running through a zone, you are pulling as many players with you as possible. So the belief that you're getting the football and the belief to the defense that you're getting the football is very, very critical. Quarterback drop. So under center, it's going to be a 7-step drop. Going to feel a lot like maybe a screen pass for you. It'll be a deep drop with a glide back, depending on how you coach that. I think it'll work either way. The play doesn't often require a tremendous amount of velocity on the football because, as you'll see when I show a couple film clips, players are often wide open. In gun, we usually use a full solid 3-step, and then again kind of a drift, again similar to a screenplay. So think of how you would coach a screenplay, the depth that you would take to a running back screen to the right or the left, and it will be very, very similar to how you're going to coach your quarterbacks when you run an 80 series play. So this would be a base series play, pro left, our pro formation. We are in gun and pro, the way we call it, 88 pass. Now we have a numbering system that we use here at Batavia. So depending on what you would use, but our tight end is the 8 receiver, our flanker's 7, and our 4 back is our our flanker's 4, and our split end is 7, and then our running backs left to right are the 2 back and the 3 back. So again, we're old school numbering system. It works well for us, and we're not changing it. So what we want to do is at the snap of the ball, we mentioned the blocking scheme already. We are going to have our running backs are going to attack either the A or the B gap, depending on what we're doing with our blocking scheme that week, and fly right at the outside hip of the inside linebackers. Now, our hope is that if it's a blitz, he blocks him. And you need to understand that if it's a blitzer and we block him, we've eliminated him from the middle of the football field. So we're fine in that scenario that he gets picked up by our running back. Our linemen don't have to worry about him, and the running back will block him if he's blitzing. Either way, we don't need to hold him off all that long. We just got to get enough of a piece of him to give our quarterback time to get into his depth and deliver the football. So both of our running backs are going to attack the outside hips of those inside linebackers. Now, if the guy does not blitz, we are going to then fly and try to pull him out to the flat with us. Now, I understand that you might be running a zone against us. It might not be man-to-man. But we found over the years, high school kids can't seem to help themselves. If a player attacks them and then sprints away, their feeling is, oh my gosh, it's a pass, and they react to the thing that was the nearest to them at the moment or what they feel strongest about. And often they will clear out the middle of that football field and they will chase that running back laterally flat to the sideline. Not all the way, but enough to do what we're trying to accomplish. Now, let's talk about our 2 outside receivers in this. And again, it's a basic pro formation. We have over the years changed these routes up a little bit, but our primary route that we have them run is a post corner route. The reason for the post corner route is we're trying to get a 2-for-1, if possible, and draw some influence on those safeties to get them to see the route coming and then widen or chase it a little bit to the sidelines. Now, again, depends a little bit on the coverage and what you're seeing. So you might feel that a post is more influential to pull them out of there. You might feel that just a straight go route is fine because the team is covered 2 and the safeties are bailing on you, all right? Some teams have run crossers, they've told me, when they've done this, like a deep cross or a deep mesh. That's fine as well. But your goal is to sort of open up the middle of the football field, so the design of the play is to pull players out of the middle of the field. Now, the key part to us on this is what we are going to do with our tight end. Our tight end is going to help to block, and the defensive end, or if it's an outside linebacker coming off the edge, him and the tackle can block him together for a good old-fashioned 2 Mississippi. It's critical that the player that is running this has some football savviness and understands, to some degree, a little bit of a feel for the game beyond just, okay, I'm going to count to 2 and run to the middle of the football field, because that hasn't seemed to work for us very well over the years. But in the base sense, what he's going to do is hold off for 2 seconds, visualize the clear, and then attack it quickly, knowing that the quarterback is going to be dumping him the football in that middle void that's been created by all the clear out routes. And what we've seen over time and over the years is that often right when we need it most, the middle of the football field is wide open. Often when opposing coaches are screaming at their kids, tight end delay, look out, look out, it still seems like this play has been money for us for a number of football seasons. There's a couple different ways that we can run it, but I want to talk about some concepts on this because I'm in this part of this. So conceptually, what we're trying to do again with this play is we're trying to clear or pull defense out of a space on the football field. Typically, it's the middle of the field, but it could be off tackle left or off tackle right, depending on the design of the play and the defense that you're playing. High school players cannot not chase. They can't seem to help themselves, so they tend to chase players out of zones and across space and create these voids for us. And again, it's worked very, very well for us, not unlike a screenplay. The delay player needs to have some feel or savvy a little bit for the game of football. And if it isn't your tight end, well, we've got some design ideas for you to use other players that might be a little bit better. It's a very patient play. Not unlike a screenplay, the quarterback has to understand it's not just a get to your drop and whip the football. There has to be a little bit of patience here so that things can sort of move and clear and these spaces become open. It's not unlike a screen or a draw play. It's a great third and long play. But what's a little bit different about us is that it's a down the field pass. It's an over the line of scrimmage pass play. And that in itself sets it up and makes it a little bit different and provides you another piece for your playbook than screens and draws. Because often the problem with screens and draws is if players do sniff them out and they seem like they're better at them than ever with the modern game, they're just sitting there alongside the scrimmage and the ball is thrown to the ground. We have other options on these plays if the primary does break down, which screens and draws don't often afford you. If a screen or draw breaks down, it's a dead play. If this play breaks down, we've actually hit the other receivers on the play for big plays, touchdowns, first downs, and that sort of a thing. The quarterback must be prepared to deal with what happens if that linebacker doesn't leave the middle of the football field. And that's a point that I'll try to address throughout this. But if he sits in the middle of the field, you're going to find some difficulty in making, obviously, that completion. We've still thrown it, and I've got some examples where we've thrown it to triple coverage, which we should have done and been successful completing the pass. I don't know how. But if that linebacker sits, it does mean something. And typically what it's going to mean is that one of your two flats is wide open with the running back who's gone out there. And then those deep corner spots, those post corners, you can't give up on because often teams that scout us really look for this play. And when they jump that tight end with that safety, sometimes we found that corners become open. We've hit every single receiver in this play sequence over the years for touchdowns. The post corners, the running backs, and then obviously the delay, okay? So, and you can think about it as we go through it, you can design this concept to fit a variety of other formations that you might have to offer to your team. So let's go back and take a look at another version of this that we run. So we run this as well out of slot. Now it still ends up being pro, but the additional motion often sometimes tends to pull and vacate areas more and gets kids' eyes focused on things that they shouldn't be. And so we'll run this out of our slot formation. We'll put in motion the four-back who began in slot. And so what we end up in is the previous formation when we snap the ball, which is just our pro left. But we run it with motion, again, to try to get the linebackers' eyes on things, to try to get the safeties and corners' eyes on things. And, you know, any type of time that you do these sort of things with motion, a kid's trying to lose their keys a little bit, or their key might change depending on the defense that they play, and makes it, I think, often a little bit more difficult for them to deal with what it is that we're trying to accomplish or we're trying to do. So we'll run the tag 4 for us tells which player to go in motion. It's the 4-back, 488 pass. It's the same pass. It's the 80 series pass to the 8 receiver, our tight end. And we're going to run the same sequence of plays that we described to you before. We're just going to run it with motion, delay, and we found that this has been very useful to us, especially as a red zone play, trying to get that delay on there as well. So I have a clip I'd like to show you of our 88 pass being run, and then I'll get into some other examples from Huddle that we run over the years from some different formations, and just kind of a look at how kind of it'll open up the field for you. So here it is being run in a game. It's a playoff game that we had against Simeon. And so you see the backs clear out, the linebackers chase, and then the tight end dump into the middle of the football field. They didn't fully react, and they didn't even chase the running backs all the way out to the flats. But again, the nice thing about it is, and we'll watch it one more time, is that that's really all that it takes. And so this is run pretty well. Glenn Albanese was a heck of a tight end for us. And you'll notice again, they sort of can't help themselves chasing those guys out of the backfield. So it was a big play for us and got us to jump up big down at Gately Stadium, and a very tough place to play. Another example of it here, playoff game that we had at home here against Pekin. Again, now we noticed some stuff on film, so you'll notice that our backs did not run through the B gaps. They were manning up on us, and so we told the kids to swing out of the backfield that week. And again, you'll watch how active those linebackers are chasing routes. And again, they can't help themselves. You had two kids chasing the one back to the left side, and they leave the tight end alone. And it's just where kids put their eyes when you play us. Very, very important. But again, you see the middle of that field get open up, and it's a real nice void. And of course, I chose two perfect examples to start out with of that, but we were very, very happy with the way that worked. And then I mentioned that slot right 488 pass, and got a couple examples of that as well. And I think I mentioned to you, now this is a tough home playoff game against Lake Forest. Sometimes they will sit. And our quarterback here happened to notice that they were going to sit. So that linebacker sitting there in that void, it made him nervous. So instead he dumped it to the running back out of the backfield, and he was wide open for a touchdown. So again, I mentioned the quarterback has to know what to do when that guy sits. And so early on here is an example of what happened when the linebacker, you'll see him sit, really well aware of that tight end, delaying, looking. Well, there was nobody out in the flat then to pick up our running back after he'd dealt with kind of collisioning a guy at the line of scrimmage. So a couple other ways that we've run this over the years. So we run an H formation, so H affects pretty much just like a tight end, but this is one where we run some H-back motion. It wasn't very, very successful. Lincoln Way Central, pretty tough team. I feel like the H-back maybe drifted a little bit too much there, and we'll watch that again. On this, I would prefer to maybe stay along the line of scrimmage and sort of sell that he was helping to block on that 54 because he really was kind of sitting out there in space and they could see him. We could have been a little bit more patient with it. The other thing that you'll notice about this play that I didn't like the way that we ran it is if you watch how we're attacking the line of scrimmage with our running backs, I think it's important that the running backs go through that A or that B gap. I think if our running backs had attacked the line of scrimmage harder here and ran right at those linebackers, okay, right at their hip like I described we should do, I think you're going to influence and pull them out of there much more easily. If you kind of sneak behind that line of scrimmage or you don't go where you're supposed to be, you're less likely to do it. And obviously the coverage dictates what's going to happen. These guys knew where their help was at with their outside linebacker dropping to the side, but still, it's much easier to influence that player if you run at him and break away from him. He's going to be forced to cover him within his zone for at least some period of time. Okay, so there's an example with 4-back motion on that delay. Now, we've also run this to some of our other players over the years, other than just our tight end. And so in this example here, we run this to a 4-back out of we call this slit. It's slit, split, or a slot split. We call it slit formation. For us, slit left, and then 84 because it's delayed to our 4-back. All the other routes are basically the same as we would run if we do it to the tight end. So we're running clear outs with our backs, okay, and running post corners with the outside wide receivers. And so the look of the play will look like this. So you see the post corners by the receivers pulling people out and then dumping it off to the receiver in the void. Now, this is a pretty good catch and run. It's a pretty good throw. There was not a huge window that we'd hoped for. I would have liked to have maybe the running back clear this thing a little bit quicker, but you can see him pull the guys out of the zone. Their eyes are on the wrong player. They're on the running back. And so the dump, this gets us a really big chunk play. It's a field flipper for us. We're on the 20. Now we're out at the 50. Really, really excited about the way that we ran this. And this was a heck of a receiver for us here. Number 7 happens to be my son. Don't know why I chose that clip, but it's fun to see my kid here on film from 2014. So excited about that. We also then can run this play to our split receiver. And the way that we do that, it's a little bit different in our play variation. We end up at the end of the routes with players in the same spots. Those deep, 15 to 20-yard holes down the field, both of the flats on both of the sidelines with our running backs. But in this, when we run 87 out of pro, which is the delay to our split end, okay, on the ball receivers, we pull the tight end through the deep zone, trying to influence the safeties and trying to get the safeties out of there. So a little bit different of a look for us here. So here's kind of the first tweak that we make to the 80 series is the route that we have the tight end run when we are running a delay to the 4-back or to the 7 receiver. It's going to be a little bit different, okay, to our split end. So let's take a look at how that looks on film. Now, not quite as big of a chunk play here, but you'll see kind of the influence that we're making. And again, I'm not super happy with the way that our running backs are running this, except for the fact that this week there was something that we saw on film that told us that if we did that, the way that they were defending us, which was a lot of man-to-man, we would be able to pull them out of the middle of the football field here. We're getting plenty of time to throw the ball. Everyone's slide protecting, so we're picking everybody up. We got 5-on-5. And again, if somebody does break free, we're getting enough depth. Pretty happy with the quarterback's drop. Okay, 3-step, and then drift, drift, drift. Wait for it. Be patient, and we can dump it into that hole. We've had that play completed for big touchdowns. You can see the seam that's beginning to develop there in the middle of the field, then up that left hash. Maybe if we get that one guy pulled out of there a little bit better. Some years when we've had a big tight end who teams double and triple cover, there's a huge giant seam that's created. You'll notice our receiver just kind of staying on the line of scrimmage. If you're a quick screen team, this works pretty well. Maybe you fake the bubble of the tunnel, and then boom, he comes up the field instead on a delay like that. Some teams, the receiver falls down, plays with his gloves, trips and falls. We've done all kinds of silly things with it over the years. But no matter what, he's nice job of being patient, and look how he's looking for that void or that hole in the field there. So that it would be what we call 87. Again, it's a delay to a split. This would be slot left, and it's labeled wrong here, but on our thing. But we can also run this again, same play you just saw, but we run it with some motion. So slot left, 487. Put the 4-back in motion them out to the wide side. We often run this from the boundary to the wide side of the field. Gets teams a little bit nervous that we're going to do something wide side, so teams tend to widen out even more to the wide side of the football field. And we like this then over to the boundary. There'll be like a nice little window up inside on there when we run this. And so the example that I have of this is running it. And again, originally intended to go to a different receiver, but you'll notice our receiver just kind of standing and waiting and then coming up underneath. Now, the play is not successful because the quarterback notices that guys are kind of sitting on it. And I've talked about this a little bit before. So if we know where our help is coming from on the play and we know what the defense is doing, what you'll notice the quarterback seeing here is we're running the delay. And I actually think the delay might be there, but he gets a little nervous because they jump it. Well, he had his eyes upfield, and lo and behold, that big hole in that far right corner was wide open. And so imagine if this had been a screen or a draw, and they jumped the screen. You were trying to get it here on 2nd and 10. Yeah, you live another day, so it's 3rd and 8. But what ends up happening for us is because there's not just one option on this, like I said, like a screen or a draw play, there's multiple options. You still have the other receivers. It is a pass play, so you can throw it down the field. You are able to still do some things with the play. So in this scenario, that post corner came wide open to that deep right corner. This is a very tightly contested game against a really good defense from Lake Forest in the 2013 playoffs when we won the state championship. This pass completion for a touchdown was huge for us. And it was something that happened off of this 80 series that wasn't originally designed, but ended up working out very, very well for us. Now, we also can, and have not had as much luck with it, throw the ball to our running backs. And the only reason that I say that is we haven't, I think it's better, it's going to sound kind of silly if you have a running back that's more like a tight end, a little bigger back, because sometimes your running backs, if they're smaller or quicker, they get sort of lost in there, and it's a harder pass for the quarterback to complete. However, we do throw it from time to time, and we did have a young man this past year who was a really good receiver out of the backfield for us. So we call this 82. So you'll notice the route combinations are very similar. Again, if the tight end is involved, we like to drag him across the football field to pull people out of zones. So you see everything that we design on this when you think about your own offense, you want to design the play to pull people out of an area. So again, we're doing that with the running back attacking the linebacker, the tight end coming across formation, and the post corners on the outside. So here's an example of it being run. Now, it's not run out of pro, but it's a similar concept. Well, I'll talk about this in a little bit. He could delay longer, but we're running it to a back out of the backfield. Not exactly the same thing, but conceptually, imagine out of a two-back set, trying to pull people out of the middle of the football field and then run the delay. And so here's an example of it where we're trying to pull people out. And it's double slot for us where we're pulling people out with outside reaching routes by our running backs or our twos, and then vertical routes by our ones of some sort. And I think if we're a little more patient on this play, it's a little bit better. I think you want to run full stems with your slots, not unlike you want your running backs to attack the linebackers. You want your slots to run a full stem, not a speed out here like we did. It would be a much more successful play. Let's take a look at 83. And so again, this will be a delay to our three-back. We're clearing out. I would have liked to have, and it would have probably been a more successful play if my running back, again, attacks the hip of that linebacker a little bit better and really tries to pull him out of the middle. So imagine if he runs at him a little longer and stays with him a little longer, maybe get a little bit better influence. It was a heck of a play by their kid there that we did not remove from that zone. If our tight end, I think, our slot back on this play had been able to pull that guy out there, it's probably a little bit more successful. Something that we saw on film didn't work quite exactly like we hoped. Now, we also have run this out of other formations other than two-back sets in pro, and we started to do that a little bit more this past season. And if I can pull that up for you, we have a formation that we call closed, and where we're running out of a tight end wing set and a wing split set on the other side. Apologize for that extra red dot in here. We ran this play with 12 players. But the delay works in a similar fashion, right? We get backs pulling you out to both of the flats. We release our outside receivers on post corners or clearing routes, and then we delay our tight end and are hoping that there's a void in the middle of the football field. Now, I'll show you one example of it that turned out to be not such a good football play, but I think you'll see the opening. This was in the state championship game. We ran this out of closed formation. And the main thing to show you is how the middle of the football field opened up. I had overcoached the play in practice this week with the tight end and the quarterback, and probably should have not done that. We talked a little bit about what we'd seen on film where we thought that we'd get a depth drop, or that maybe that 5 would go to the middle of the field. He does not do that. But what you get the sense for is how the field does open up. Again, if the running back goes through the line of scrimmage here and doesn't go fly out so quickly, attacks the linebackers outside hip, I think what you'll begin to see is the type of spacing that you're getting, and it's very visible from up on the top of the press box at NIU, as how the middle of the field begins to open up for you. So a little more patience on this play. This was a very good defense. They weren't going to let you be too patient. Attacking those backers' hips and pulling them out with you to the outside, you can see some of the field space that is created when you do that. So we ran that out of a little bit different of a formation. Then we had a formation we installed this past season that we called empty. We run 5 wides, traditional, and then we put in this year a double tight no back formation, which we're really having a lot of fun with, and we're going to use more and more in the future. Not common to run. I don't see a lot of teams running this right now, but we can do a lot of our base offense out of it. So what we did was we designed an 80 series play out of this, and what we ended up calling it was empty right or empty left 88 cross. So it was still the tight end delay that we were going to run out of it. Liked it more in practice than we did in games, but again, the concept is the same. We brought our tight end and our slot receiver across the football field on a mesh play. Again, the opponent that we played, we liked how on film they reacted to mesh, and so we used this for our delay that week. And typically what we do each week when we go into the game and we're putting together our play sequences, we talk about what delays do we like this week. Do we like the tight end delay? And when we're saying that, we look at our opponent on film and formations that they have run against them, against their defense, and problems where we've noticed the linebackers are really bailing or creating space. Again, whether it's left middle, right middle, or the center of the football field. And this was a team we felt would react well to a cross like this. So we ran that, and I'll show it here for you against, I believe, Glenbard North. The reason I show you this here, we're motioning out to a single back set, and it does give us a kind of a similar look of a clear out. Not the exact play that I had diagrammed, but we're motioning from single to that. But here's a better example of it. And so this is that empty formation. This is out of empty left. We run the mesh. And again, the rush was really too much for us here. I think we needed to do a little bit better job of pass protection. I think you'll notice our guys stepping out. They ran a blitz on us, and the quarterback didn't get enough depth, and we weren't able to stun him at the line of scrimmage long enough, and we'll watch it again to be able to effectively give the quarterback enough time to throw here. Now, we should have had enough guys, but what was different is we didn't have running backs in on this. We did run this out of this double tight formation. So it was something that they decided to do to blitz this as Wheaton South. They made it a couple rounds into the 7A playoffs. They were a one-loss football team. We were lucky enough to win this football game, but this was us experimenting with our 80 series this year. And you'll notice just a split second more time. I want you to watch that tight end delay, and you can see the middle of the field by the official. Had we had time to throw, you would have had a nice big seam up the middle. So that was us running out of a different formation. Now, this is not at all the same concept, but a number of you run a pop pass. And part of the success of a play-action play or a pop pass is the ability to effectively move linebackers up towards the line of scrimmage or pull safeties out of the middle of that football field or have aggressive people attack things. And so we call this our Red Hawk play. And the only reason that I mention it is because, again, effectively, our 80 series functions as, like I said, a screen or a draw, but also a little bit like a play action. But the difference of it being, it's a play action pass that leads to another pass. So it feels like a down the field throw that really is we're just trying to clear out space. And that's often what you'll do when you run a play action play and a good old fashioned pop pass. Ours is called Red Hawk, is a version of that. And so I just want to show this play because I like it. Boom, and then dump to your tight end over the middle of the football field. And everybody's got some version of that. I'm well aware, but I just like to show it. It's against one of our rivals, so that's fun to show a big chunk play. And then another example of it, again, if you'll notice, the concept here is the same, right? Out of double slot, we are running, in our vernacular, what we would call 61, okay? Which is going to be outs and then corner routes. And you can see what we're trying to do with play design. We're trying to get people out of the middle of the football field. And where this is very successful for us is against zero coverage teams, 4-2-5s. We've done a nice job with this. Again, active linebackers as well, and people that lose track of the running back. Also, again, if you think about what I said earlier about screens and draws, this effectively might look like a screen that many of you run. The back might pass protect to one side, you clear everything out, and then you dump them the football. But I have felt over the past couple of years, really more than any time in me coaching football here, is that teams are getting better at sniffing out screens. Well, great. Sniff this out as a screen, because if this is you have a running back that's a very athletic, good receiver, fast, once they sniff this out as a screen and that linebacker attacks that running back, if he can burst clean and free, we've seen this develop into pretty huge football plays for us. So here's an example of it against a 4-2-5. We're going to clear out that middle of the field and try to make that dump for us there. So not a bad chunk play. And then another version of it. We run this out of a formation we call Grand Valley, similar to double slot again, but we do a compressed slot on the boundary side and a wide slot on the wide side, and something we did pick up from Grand Valley. But again, what you'll notice is it's against a 4-2-5. They do a lot of zero out of it, this particular team. What ends up happening is we're able to pull on the boundary side, the safety and corner out of formation. They happen to catch him with a blitzing backer. We'll do a good job picking it up, and then you'll notice the void that's created in the middle of the football field, and it becomes a huge touchdown play for us. Again, I know it's not our 80 series, but conceptually, a lot of you do similar things, and something that we really have had great success with when we do play design is take this 80 series concept, this delay concept, and find ways to create voids in the football field based upon the activity of the scout report, what the linebackers are doing, what the safeties are doing, what the corners are doing, the pass rush, where your pressure comes from, and try to find these holes. And honestly, I would say that though I don't want to categorize these as what we call shot plays, more like a chunk play, they have often turned into chunk plays that have become shot plays for us over the years. So I hope out of this little sequence of things that I was able to show you today, there's something that you can draw from it for your own offense. This 80 series concept that we've utilized here since I think Coach Gasperi sort of came up with it, and where exactly he got it from back in the 1980s and 1990s, I'm not sure. But we've taken this concept and continued to utilize it and expand it to some of the other things that we're doing here with our offense at Batavia High School. And it really has been a game-changing offensive set for us in terms of flipping the field, getting a nice big chunk play, finding us another option on third and long other than just chucking the ball down the field or, hoping for something to happen. And also that sort of surprise down the 2nd and 1 when they think we're going to take a shot. It's become very, very big for us to run this. Or, maybe like a 2nd and medium play. It's been very, very versatile. It's often difficult to run against our own team because we all know each other so well. Our defensive coaches can't help themselves but yell, "Watch for delay," as we come up in this formation during scrimmage or practice. So we don't run it as much against ourselves, but we have had a great deal of luck with the variations against our own defense in practice, hitting some big plays on ourselves. And really, I think, even from watching the film myself today, if we kind of coach those finer points with those running backs a little bit better, it is a play set in a formation which, to our opponents, we're going to utilize quite a bit this next year with a number of really good tight ends coming up in our program. So appreciate paying attention to me here today with this, and I hope there's something that you can take out of this that you can use for your program. Have a good day.